for you. I have this person over there for you. So our plans are not God's plans. Our ways are not God's ways. And God says specifically, your offspring will be numbered through Isaac. So years later, when Abraham and Sarah died, they got one cave in the land, and what they have for kids, how many kids? One. God said you're going to have many kids, you're going to have lots of land. They have a cave and they have one child, uno. Not nations, not millions, not stars or sands in the sea, one. The third blessing that God gave to Abraham was to make him a blessing. Abraham dies at the age of 175. As I said, his property, his asset value was one cave, one kid, and a promise that the whole world will be blessed through him. Can you imagine what Abraham must have been thinking at that moment? Promise 1 and 2 aren't in the greatest shape in his life right now. Promise 3, how is it going to be possible? When 2 promises aren't the way you expected it to be, how do you expect a 3rd promise to be better than the first 2? But he was thinking, Lord, I would like to see how you're going to pull this off, the 3rd promise. So Abraham, like us, he showed little just as his own short and small life, but God was seeing the big picture in Abraham's life, and a 3rd promise was fulfilled in Abraham's life. You know when? 1,500 years later. In the Gospel of Matthew, we read that Abraham's offsprings, through Abraham, David, comes the fulfillment of the messianic prophecy, Jesus being born. Through him, the nations are blessed. Amen? And so sometimes the blessings of God that he promised to us may never be seen by us in our lifetime. Sometimes we may never see us or live to experience that, but God always keeps the promises. How many of you know that all 3 of the promises that God gave to Abraham was realized in God's own time, in God's own way? Amen? In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 13, it says, all these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And they admitted that they were aliens and strangers on earth. This is what God is calling us, my friends, to realize that our life on this earth is not permanent. That there is a permanent work of God that is beyond that which we see with our natural eyes. That God has a bigger plan. God has a bigger purpose in and through our lives. Sometimes we only see little. We have this narrow vision of what God is doing in our life. But God has a bigger picture about our life. Amen?